Welcome back to the Coruscant Nights podcast. We are very, very happy to have you here again for another week of brilliant Star Wars content. My name is Cooper. Alongside me, as always, is Mark.
Hello there.
And returning to the panel after his absence last week is Jack.
Yay, hello.
He's back. And today, he's back for a good reason because we are doing a ranking the Star Wars live action series. This is something that we had been discussing since the end of Ahsoka. We kind of have touched on it, all of the shows, but we haven't really discussed where they rank in comparison. So I thought, you know what, let's do it today. And, we've got some shows coming out next year. We'll probably update it, sometime next year. But for the moment, we got 7 seasons of shows that we are going to rank on a scale from masterpiece down to hot garbage.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it'll be very interesting to see how these series align. Just a quick reminder, we are on social media, pretty much every single social media platform under Coruscant Nights. Go follow us. We're very close to 100 subscribers. Make sure to subscribe so we can hit that goal before the end of the year. And as always, thanks to Ben and Keita for their support as our patrons. Okay, guys, shall we get into this ranking?
Let's
100%.
do it.
All right, so I think we should start at the beginning. The season 1 of the Mandalorian.
Of the Mandalore.
Season 1 of the Mandalore. All right. So yeah, grab your Mandalorian, and we'll go on the count of three. 3, 2, 1, move. Okay, that's kind of about what I expected.
Interesting.
I was really tossing and turning.
Mark, do you want to explain why you put it in amazing?
Well, I mean, that I think the way you just described it is what it is amazing. Personally, I don't know if I'd call it a masterpiece. I don't know. I know I'm comparing it to another show, which I think everyone knows which one I'm talking about, and it will be seen later. But I think that one has a rank of its own, and for that reason, I'm going to put Mandalorian pretty much just below it because I think Mandalorian season 1 is probably, in my view, the second best of the live action shows.
Okay, very good.
Interesting. So I reckon I put it in masterpiece because I was trying not to discuss with the fellow paid podcast people before obviously the tier list video that we're doing, but to consider a project a masterpiece, I think you have to consider kind of all aspects of it, not just writing or plot or story. And I think, yeah, Mandalorian might season 1 might suffer from a bit of writing or even length of the episodes and show and the whole season as a whole. But I think it elevates in most of the aspects better than a lot of the other projects on here, which is why it's at masterpiece, because it's fun, it's enjoyable, action's great, cinematography is great, story is solid, it's got a good tone, it maintains its tone very well, and it doesn't rely on cameos and random things happening for setups of the future. I think it's the most focused story of being a unique project. Like, we didn't know he's a new character, brand new kind of period of time that which we didn't yet explore. And I think it was something bold for Disney and Lucasfilm and all them to kind of produce out, especially after having already popular, like on my screen, bounty hunters, which is would almost be like, oh well, why did they make Mandalorian when you already have Boba Fett, which is basically similar. So that's I just think it did it in a really good way. The format for being a TV show, I think, executed it perfectly too. I think it had that really fun kind of weekly cliffhanger-esque and leading to the next week pretty well, like how we used to watch free-to-air TV, where you had to actually wait like 7 p.m. on this day, you got a new episode. I think it did it really well, but not also like dragging it out, but also feeling like it fits the TV show format better than a movie. So I think, yes, I'm calling it a masterpiece. However, we also only have 7 seasons of live action Star Wars shows. So who knows eventually when they release more, or if this is just it for live action shows. I think this is the best one that we've had so far for me, in my opinion.
You summarized that really well because you've touched on a lot of points that I was going to mention about, the story being pretty consistent throughout. I feel like 7 and 8 were probably some of the best story, or was one of the best stories you could tell in
100%.
Star Wars, which was really quite compelling. I put it in amazing just because I think that there are some lackluster episodes. I didn't really like the gunslinger episode from memory. That just felt kind of a waste um, of an episode. But obviously, every episode has their intention. I might have just been missing what it was intended for. But I put it amazing. It's a great series, and I think it was a really good foundation for, starting the Mandalorian series.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. That's very solid.
Yep.
All right. Number 2. I think we should go with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Ooh,
I feel like this one could be a bit interesting. So
yes.
on the count of three. 3, 2, 1. Oh, okay. Oh,
Oh,
okay. We'll agree.
Wow.
I didn't
Definitely
expect
all
that.
put the same one.
Universal. It is Stark Cooper, I reckon, since
All right.
reverse the order.
So I'm gonna save Mark's favorite line for him because I feel like he's the one that's gonna want to touch on that. Uh, I didn't dislike Obi-Wan. I thought it just lacked a focused story. I mean, initially when I watched it, I'm like, oh, getting off planet to save Leia. Okay, that's kind of the only reason I could think of that would actually get him off Tatooine. It was just executed so badly. And some of the choreography,
Oh, gosh.
oh my God. And plot conveniences. I also found that there were way too many in this season. I'm hoping that there's not a season 2 simply because if it's Deborah Chow still in charge of this show, I don't think it's going to be to the standard that we expect. But you know what? It had its high moments, but it also had some really disappointing lows. I think it's got some of the most forgettable moments as well, especially when Obi-Wan's trying to help the rebellion and like, what? Why are we, what? This is not what was promised in the series. This was meant to be a Vader versus Obi-Wan series. That's what they promoted it as. And we only got like 10 minutes of it, 15 minutes of it. It felt like Godzilla in the first Godzilla movie. He was in it for like 5 minutes. That's the best comparison I can think of. Anyway, average show.
Yeah.
Jack, what do you think?
I'm gonna probably rip into it a little bit more. I was borderline fencing it hot garbage, just primarily because of how already perfect Obi-Wan's story is from 3 to 4, and how already I was on the fence when they announced this show. Like, so it was already giving me a bit of like he's a legacy character. You're putting him in a Disney Plus show format, which is I think already a bit of disrespect because like he's one of the most important characters in the whole series, and he's getting a Disney Plus show instead of a focused solo movie. Like we got Han Solo movie, like why can't we get like a Obi-Wan movie? But anyway, and then we could have. I think the main issue I had with the show is I agree with Cooper. It felt like I know there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but it had a lot of rewrites. It felt very multiple stories kind of merged together, like different ideas trying to come out. It just like, especially with implementing Leia, I think they deliberately had her in there just as a plot device for Obi-Wan to kind of get off planet and versus Vader, which I think is just pretty lame in my opinion because I like the actress for Leia. I just think that she was almost more of a lead role than Obi-Wan. And like we said with some other characters in our review of Obi-Wan, that I think they try to draw the focus off Obi and Vader a lot. I think this was a perfect opportunity for them to explore more Vader's side aspect of it and how he's been struggling with the grief, struggling with his new kind of suit, still kind of tossing up between like what his wants and needs are in this kind of time period. Instead, we get really plain shots, very bad writing, very poor acting, in my opinion. I thought it reminded me of the early days of Episode 1 Phantom Menace, like just cheesy lines, really bad line deliveries all around. The lighting wasn't great. The choreograph wasn't great. The only reason why it's in average and not hot garbage is because they are, like I said, good characters from the past. So it's kind of hard to put in hot garbage when you've got Hayden Christensen returning as Darth Vader. It's like, well, I just think even the music, I really didn't like his theme. No offense to John Williams. I think that's probably one of my least favorite themes that he's ever done. It just felt so like, I know it's the point to be hopeless. However, when you call Kenobi theme, that's not where he was in his prime. How does he get a theme when he's an older man hibernating on Tatooine? Like, where's he? I'm never gonna link that theme to him when I think of it. I'm gonna think of Battle of Heroes from episode. You know what I mean? Like, I just think they really missed the ball on this one. and I really wish it was in a movie format because it would have cut down weird chasing scenes, which is just laughable when you think of it, how a 6-year-old or 9-year-old or whatever can outrun full-grown men in a forest by just randomly using their little legs. Like, it's just, it was just, honestly, the more I talk about it, the more I don't like it. So I think I should move on to Mark's point.
Yes, I think so. And I think both of you have touched on almost every reason. And before I go into that, I want to ask Cooper what he meant by there's a line he thought I was going to say.
One.
So he did just mean baseball bats. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to get to that. But I just wanted to say on Jack's point, I think I would agree pretty much the only reason I didn't put in hot garbage is because of the characters in it. And I mean, I've said on so many occasions why I didn't really like this show. And it was also kind of sad because to me it felt like a birthday present because it came out on my birthday. But just I agree the story just didn't work at all in my opinion. Like I even disagree with the whole fact that Obi-Wan had to leave Tatooine for the story. I feel like what I was more expecting is it would show what his life was becoming on Tatooine and his relationship, if anything, with Luke and Owen and Beru, rather than Leia and Bail Organa and all them and the rebellion. So the story, I mean, I think the story just was a big miss. Choreography again, baseball bats. I don't know how many times I've had to say it. This show was the worst one of them all for baseball bats, and we've seen it in many other shows. I just can't. There's this one battle scene I can't ever get out of my head, which is Obi-Wan fighting against stormtroopers. And he whacks it like this, and it bounces off their armor. That's not how a lightsaber works. I just can't get it out of my head. And then, as you guys said, with plot conveniences, there's another scene where Leia's hiding underneath Obi-Wan's coat in the middle of an Imperial base, and no one notices it. Like, this is the Empire. They wouldn't not see this. There's just too many things that have gone wrong with this show that just can't be excused. And like Jack, the more I talk about it, the more I don't want to talk about it. So I think I'll leave it there. But the only reason, again, it's not hot garbage is because pretty much of Hayden and Ewan.
Can I just quickly say also, we forgot also to mention another infamous scene where the lady helping Obi-Wan just like palms the stormtrooper's head and goes flying.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. You guys are convincing me.
was so
I'm
hard to
moving
watch that
Obi-Wan.
episode.
I'm not moving it down to hot garbage, but I'm not putting it at the top of average.
Yeah, let's just go like this. Let's just move it down here.
I'm moving it here. I'm moving it across a bit.
side.
I'm not putting it at the top of average. It's not that good.
Wow.
All right. Let's do the most recent one, Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I also feel like we're gonna get similar responses for this one, but you know what? Well, I guess we'll find out.
I don't think
3, 2, 1, go. Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. All right. So Jack and I have gone great. Mark's gone amazing. Mark.
what's your
I'm really struggling to get the box to fit in. There we go. Should I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. I might be adding on to yours because I'm not sure right off the top of my head all the points, but I just found it. Well, actually, if anything, I'm more interested that you both put it in great because I think from our series of reviews, you guys had the most different opinions on the series. But I pretty much overall really enjoyed it. And even if there were a few things that didn't make sense, whether it's the first episode with Sabine getting stabbed, and then the next episode she was pretty much fine, whether it's Thrawn and not superbly doing what he always does with his mastermind abilities and kind of just failing in that respect, or the fact that there was the show I feel like was very slow, especially I'm pretty sure it was episode 4. Was it 4 with the space, the dogfight that lasted forever? Other than those few points, I think overall I enjoyed the story. I was kind of let down at the end when it was basically nothing happened. They just switched places. But I still found it enjoyable and seeing all the characters return and their interactions with each other. And yeah, I mean, Balin and Shin, I feel like really carried this show a lot as well.
Oh yeah.
I'm really interested to see what happens there.
Yeah. You've pretty much nailed a lot of what I was gonna say. And I feel like the reason that it's keeping me from putting it in amazing is because one, the last episode was probably one of the worst finales I've ever seen. Now that I think back on it, I really didn't like it. I would
Mm.
probably even drop my ranking even more than what it was, which I think was like a 5. I really did not like it. Um but what I did love is getting to see the rebels. That was probably
Mm.
my favorite. That was my most anticipated bit. And I think they did it in such a respectful way and that was so true to the characters. And I love that now that the writers and actors strike is now finished, that the actors and actresses who play these characters are coming out and saying, you know, it was such an honor to play these characters. They had such a good time. And that makes me feel really happy inside because it's like, okay, Dave Filoni's done the right thing. I can't remember who the casting person is. Is it Sarah Finn? I can't remember. Anyway, if it was her, she did a great job of getting these characters, of these actors and actresses. So yeah, I can't put it above great because of the other series that I'm going to put up there, but I thought it was a pretty solid show overall.
If I can quickly say one more thing before Jack goes that I forgot to mention, I don't want to say that one episode can carry a whole show, but episode 5 with Anakin and the Clone Wars, I think that also needs to be mentioned as to why it's in it for me amazing.
Yep.
Yep.
Just seeing Anakin return again to his actual Anakin self, not necessarily Darth Vader.
Okay, so don't want to be a negative Nancy, as some might say. I initially, if you guys are watching, I have moved my Ahsoka to the more lower side of great because there's just so much. There was so much potential with this show. I think this show almost had more potential than every other one on the list because of the characters they had, the storyline that they were perceiving to show, and I think they fell flat in a lot of the aspects. So I want to begin off by saying I think Balin and Shin's storyline subplot was probably the most interesting part of it. I even think it was more interesting than Thrawn's return, which is probably, in my opinion, shows about where their priorities were almost lying a bit. I will also first like to disagree with Cooper on the finale. Yes, I thought the finale was bad. However, I thought it actually did an all right job at setting up for another season. It just didn't do a good enough job at capping off this season on its own. This is definitely was a setup for everything else, which I think we can agree that's a setup for other stuff. However, I think it's a bit harsh to say it's really bad finale when it's not the finale of the whole show because there's other seasons like Andor, for example. I didn't like the Andor finale because it didn't really like. I liked aspects from the finale. Obviously, the thing I'm going to think about is obviously the speech. However, it didn't really end the show because it's not the end of the show, if that makes sense. So I think it's a bit unfair to say it's not great because, well, they're obviously leading to other stuff. Anyway, my point. Cooper, you said the casting was good. I would actually like to disagree on a lot of the aspects of that. I struggled to see a lot of the characters from being animated translated into this, especially with Sabine. I don't like to rag on the actress at all. Thought she did a fine job. Fine is a word. I just think that she was leaning a lot towards not how I perceived her as like the independent, strong kind of character she was in Rebels, instead of more of a just a complainer, someone who closes herself off still after all these years. And even with how they did Ezra with not using the lightsaber, like I just think a lot of the decisions for the characters tainted my opinion about how the actors portrayed them, which I think is a bit unfair. And I'll give him that. I think it's a bit unfair. I thought the writing could have been a bit better. I know Dave I think he wrote the whole thing. Like, so it's good. It's his vision. It's what he wanted to do from what I know. However, I still don't think it was as good as writing as it was in Rebels with the characters. I know they had more time to develop them. However, I thought we backtracked a little bit on some of the characters' progression through the seasons, like on how they would be now. Ahsoka, I thought she was okay, and this is her show. This is where I most have issues with. I thought she was just okay. I thought when I think of the Ahsoka show, my mind instantly goes to like Thrawn's return of when the ship's coming over the thing. I think of Balin fighting Ahsoka. I think of Balin's motives. I think of his themes. I don't really associate Ahsoka to her own show.
Yeah, that's true.
when I think of the best moments of the show, I don't think of Ahsoka. I think of Anakin too. I think of young Ahsoka more than I do of main Ahsoka when he got her for one episode. You know what I mean? This is where my issues are. I think it's great show, but borderlining top of average because of how much potential it had and how much it kind of just played it safe. And that's where I have main issues for, because this show could have easily been a masterpiece with the characters they have, the plot they're trying to tell, readapting the heir to the Empire, having Thrawn be the main villain. They just rinse and repeat Disney kind of tropes of just bad guy having to lose, but also because it's Thrawn, you can't have him lose. So it was all a strategy of losing kind of deliberately or getting away or off like weird minor like loopholes. And it was just, I don't know. I just think in theory he should have destroyed them in 2 seconds, especially with that bombard. I don't know. Things like that just
That bombardment.
overlooked. And I cannot call it an amazing show, but I can call it a pretty great show, but not fully great, if that makes sense. So I think that's why it's in great for me. Yeah.
All right. Very, very in-depth discussion there. And just if you want to hear more of what Jack has to say, we've done a whole breakdown of the series, so go check it out. All right. Let's do The Mandalorian season 3, I reckon.
Season 3.
Yeah, jump to 3. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, all right.
Well, Mark.
Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
that actually makes me angry. That makes me so angry, Mark.
Are you serious?
Can I start this one, please?
It was between great and average, and in the split second, I started to go great.
Okay.
Superstar.
Can I start off?
I've got all my others listed, so that's why I put it there.
Yeah. Okay. This is by far the worst season of television I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
There is nothing good about this season.
I agree.
I've watched it twice. I cannot find any redeeming qualities about this season. And I can't believe I ranked it like as I did. Oh, so highly when we did the watching series back in when we started the channel. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, it's not bad. It was pretty good. There were some great episodes. Sure, I'll admit there's some good episodes, but they don't contribute to anything. The story is so bad. Moff Gideon's demise is so bad. Mando's character development is so bad. Grogu doesn't do anything.
So
Grogu
bad.
Han's just there. It's such a bad season of television. I just cannot fathom how this got through production.
Yeah.
Like I don't anymore. I'm gonna rage if I go anymore, so someone else can go.
You know, I want to go next because I don't know. I just want to get it out there before Jack rants as well. Honestly, I'm still even not sure myself if I would put it in great, but I'm keeping it there because that's where I put it. The sad thing is I agree with almost everything you just said, but I don't know. I think the story was a bit boring, but I still found it somewhat enjoyable to watch, apart from that damn Jack Black droid Lizzo episode. That was I agree, that was one of the worst things I've ever watched, and I found it so hard to watch. And I described in our podcast review of that episode as a fever dream. Like it feels like something that you have when you're sick and you watch that.
Yep.
But I mean, I think with the Darksaber and everything and Bo-Katan and getting Grogu, I know Jack hates it, but getting Grogu into kind of more of the Mandalorian side of things, I thought that was pretty fun and interesting to watch unfold. So, I mean, I definitely would have the season redone, but I think bare bones, it did have potential to be a lot better than it was.
Very modest.
Ready for me to get cancelled?
Okay, let's go. Let's go. I know what you're gonna say, but let's go.
No, you don't.
Yes,
Ready?
I do.
Here we go. No, you don't. Here we go.
Yes, I do. Go.
Grogu needs to die.
Oh.
No, I'm just playing. No, the reason why I said that is because they really need to keep Grogu out of the season, because I really think they just had him shoehorned in here just to get people who have been watching The Mandalorian for Grogu only. Because wow, he does nothing in this show and ruins his own development for a character who's only just been introduced. Like what? Anyway, I'm not going to go into it too depth because the reason why it's hot garbage is because of how vastly different it is from the first 2 seasons, being like pretty amazing to masterpiece tier level of Star Wars content to absolute trash. Like, wow, like we literally have Mandalorian being sidelined in his own show. Here we go, another Mandalorian character who was from the cartoons. Oh, Bo-Katan, sure, she's all right. I didn't love her in the animated shows. I mean, like, I don't know if there's a cult following for her. Why is she taking over this show? Like, why is it all about her? Okay, whatever. That makes no sense whatsoever. She literally is more overpowered than Din in his own show. Din in this season just continues to show us how poor of a Mandalorian he is. It makes me just and this is why I was talking to the guys on the channel here, people, about how Din made it so far in the bounty hunter list. I'm like, he's horrible. He doesn't do anything. The only time we've seen him actually do something successfully is when he's taking bounties of people who literally don't have weaponry on them or are just basic tier crooks. He doesn't actually take out anyone great because Grogu saves him. Other Mandalorians help him. He's borderline beta in every situation. He doesn't do anything. He's inexperienced. He's pretty stupid. Like he needs help in every aspect. And this season just makes me not like him at all. And that's what I really don't like because I love Mandalorian, right? I gave it masterpiece. Seeing this season is making me lose hope about the way they're going forward with him. And I almost wish they just stopped it after season 2 because everything in the show is bad. There's not one. The only redeeming factor I can give it is.
Wow, it's taken you a long time to think of it.
Music. The music is still good. There's good themes and stuff. That's literally the only thing I can grab. Like, I refuse to rewatch this show ever again. When Mandalorian season 4 gets announced, I am going to watch season 1 and 2 again, skip season 3, get ready for 4 because it is that bad. I know I made a episode about the disappointing Book of Boba Fett. Honestly, I think Cooper and I might need to make a hot garbage Mandalorian season 3 video because wow,
hey, look, I would even join.
You put it at great.
No, you notice I've put it halfway now.
Yeah, we've swayed Mark again, but yeah, honestly, it's a Star Wars media which I thoroughly didn't enjoy, and I'm a big Star Wars fan. That just shows. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say for it.
I would just like to add something. Mark mentioned the episode 6, with Jack Black and Lizzo being a fever dream. That was also the episode that Bo-Katan got the Darksaber on a technicality.
Technicalities. Yeah. So weird.
They ruined the whole point of the Darksaber.
And then it got
in
destroyed
one episode. Like, yeah, I need to rant in a video.
Yeah, so bad.
That'll come probably, I don't know, sometime in the future. All right, next one. Let's do Andor.
Yep.
Yeah.
3, 2. I feel like okay. 3, 2, 1. This one's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Interesting. I'm gonna put it here.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised about your placement, Jack.
Well,
yeah, Jack told me beforehand he was going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm different, do you want me to just quickly brush off?
Yep.
Look, I'm going to agree with the guys on what they say. It's kind of like situation with reverse with the Mandalorian season 1. I just think, I know it's not an actiony, fast-paced show. However, when I'm comparing all aspects again, I think maybe when Andor as a show finishes entirely, I'll put it as a masterpiece if it continues to maintain its quality. But purely based on the only first season that we have, I just think the pacing is real slow. There's a reason why they released it was the first whole arc they released at once, wasn't it? And that's when you know they did that deliberately, because if they released weekly for those 3 first arc, wow. I think this show is better when you binge watch it. As a weekly format, wow, not great in my opinion, because it's just character, like aside from Andor and a few others, like maybe Luthen, but a lot of the characters are just, in my opinion, I don't care about the crew that he has. No offense to them. They're nowhere near as good as Rogue One's cast and characters. Like, for example, Jyn. We only had her for a movie, and I still prefer her over the characters we spent more time with, aside from Luthen and Andor. She comes third in line, you know what I mean?
Yeah, fair.
And I just think the show is either there's 2 perspectives, I think. People are calling it the best thing ever since sliced bread. Don't think it is, right? But I also don't think it's hot garbage like some other people, like some other big YouTubers, I will say, that are calling it boring, a waste of time, not Star Wars. I think it does perfectly for what it does. I just think it's not as good as other things in Star Wars. Like, I think it's something that you have to take into consideration before watch. You know how people say go into media and shows and movies with an open mind? I think this is the one show I would say don't come in with an open mind and come in knowing what you get, because then you enjoy it better. Coming into it thinking it's going to be like a fast-paced spy espionage thriller kind of aspect, I don't think you enjoy it as much because it's a slower paced version of that.
Yep.
And it's a slow burner. So if you tell someone it's a slow burner and they go into it optimistic as a slow burner, they will love it a lot more. And I think that's why I have to put it at amazing, because I think you can put the Mandalorian season 1 on anyone's shoulder, non-Star Wars fans alike, and they will like it. I think that's how I describe it, as being better than Andor. Andor is something a very select taste, I think, will like it a lot more. Like, so that's why I have to put it amazing. But don't get me wrong, still an amazing show and one that I will cherish for a long time. And you guys will explain the other benefits of positives.
Shall I go, Cooper,
Yeah,
or
you
do you
go
want to
first.
go?
You go first.
Well, I'm going to try and keep it brief again, but I was going to mention that point that Jack said about you got to go into it knowing what it is, because I was going to say a similar thing. It's more of you need to, like, I don't know how to put it into the right words, but it's something you've got to watch and take it slowly and internalize everything that's happening and think about it rather than just kind of watching it mindlessly. That makes sense. And that's what I really like about it. And as many people know from the podcast, I've always said the politics and world building sort of things really intrigue to me, which is why I put it at masterpiece. And what I always think about with this show that I love is the writing, because I think the writing of this show is phenomenal, top notch. I don't think it's been beaten in Star Wars personally. Even maybe movie wise, there's been better. But yeah, I was thinking Rogue One.
Yeah.
But in terms of the shows, we're ranking, obviously by where I've put it as masterpiece, it's easily the best written show. The world building is what really kept me in. And I do agree with the first arc, even the one with this the heist arc. That one wasn't as intriguing to me and didn't necessarily keep me in as much as I know Cooper really loved it. So it was a bit slow to get through it. But after I've seen the whole season, I can appreciate it a lot more, which is again why I think the point of if you know what you're getting into before you watch it, you'll enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to see what comes from this. And I loved seeing, especially like the Imperial and like the Imperial Senate things and the beginnings of the Rebel Alliance. All those things are just, they ticked all the boxes. And that's why I love this show so much.
That's great. 100% right.
I've touched on this show a lot before, as we all have, I suppose. I'm not going to say the basic thing. I think I rewatched it recently, and I really have an appreciation for it in a new sense because of how it handles the Empire. This is the first time in a Star Wars media since probably A New Hope that I have felt that the Empire is genuinely ruthless, is genuinely scary, and it has this just such tight grip around the galaxy that's so constricting. And I love that Cassian, I'm going to try and recite this line from the trailer from memory, but he's got this mentality, or not mentality, but he's got this kind of idea that they could never imagine what, that someone like me could end up in their house because they're so fat and satisfied. I love that line. I love that line so much because it just really shows that the Empire it's almost like a fragile, it's like a vase. I don't know why I'm using that as an analogy, but it looks sturdy and strong and really
Foundation.
Yeah, it's a good foundation. But just a couple things, the wind might knock it over, or someone might, enough and force will push it over,
it's like a
and then it
tower of
cracks.
cards. If you knock the bottom card out, the whole thing will tumble down.
Yeah, exactly.
Jenga. It's Jenga.
So it is. So I really like the fact that the Empire feels such a threat, but also feels familiar and vulnerable. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah. So Andor is a masterpiece. I know it's a slow burner. But I think it's also very rewarding when you watch it and you're able to recognize these characters and see these characters come together and follow the story episode to episode. So yeah, I really love Andor. Um, I don't know which one to do next. Do you guys have a preference?
Let's do Mando.
Mando season 2? All right. 3, 2, 1, move it.
Oh no, guys, I need time to think.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Ooh, okay,
This one's very scattered.
Masterpiece. Oh, you go first. I want to hear it.
You want me to go first? Okay. I think that this is some of the best linear storytelling in Star Wars. I think it really benefits from the fact that there is, right from the get-go, an established goal and an established purpose of what is happening in the season. I think there's only one episode that doesn't even contribute towards it, but to get 7 episodes of progression to getting Grogu to this Jedi and the anticipation that's coming from that, I think is really spectacular. I know that there are a lot of characters in this, and it introduces like Ahsoka, Boba Fett, who am missing, Bo-Katan, but I don't think that their appearance hinders the series at all. I think it almost amplifies it because it brings this world together. It connects it. It shows that these different characters exist at the same time. It's like Jack and I had a discussion the other day
Don't you
about the
dare.
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Don't
I'm not going to
you
go into it, but
dare.
it was basically about the connectedness of the universe, and Jack didn't necessarily think it was a great thing. I did, but I almost feel like this is the same with the Mandalorian season 2. That the fact that all these characters are coming into it, and you can see how they interact, and you get to see their journeys continued while not being the primary source of the show. I really like that they took that approach. It's got great character development for Grogu, and I think it doesn't have as much for Din, but he acts as a good. I was going to say narrator because he's the one that's driving the show, and we're following him, but he doesn't really speak that much. So I put it in masterpiece and above the first season. I liked it more than the first season. I think that every episode except for episode 2 was really, really good. And I don't really have much more to say about it. I think it's a masterpiece of a series or season. Who's going next?
I'd like to hear Jack go next.
Alrighty. You said one thing in your point that is kind of why I put it at great. Din. I like the Mandalorian. He's not in. I feel, is overshadowed a lot in this season with all the cameos. Grogu being really cool. The anticipation of the Jedi. I really didn't care less. I couldn't care less for Din. And yes, it was fun. Yes, it had episode. I think it was. You said linear story. I actually want to disagree because I think in each episode it had its own story really done well. But the overarching kind of lingering of the Jedi, I think, is too. How do I explain this? It was very. I wouldn't say it was dragged. I think it would have been dragged if the episodes itself wasn't as entertaining. That's what I'm trying to say here. I think it got carried by all the fun stuff that you saw and didn't expect. Because that story of the Jedi thing was basically resolved at the end of, like Luke came and stuff, and then nothing really. I think it hinders knowing season 3's kind of outcome, but it didn't really progress anything at all after that. And I think I prefer the more focused storytelling. And if you go for my list right now, you can see how Mandalorian and Andor season 1, Andor and Mandalorian season 1, I like them the most because of their focused storyline telling. The tone for Mandalorian season 1 was solid. The tone for this one slowly started to progress with Din being not as adequate and not as formidable as he was in season 1. Season 1 may have had more boring, slower elements that didn't really connect to anything, but I think the Mandalorian being some sort of traveling warrior works better than trying to connect him to the greatest Star Wars franchise. And this is what you were saying about the interconnected. I like things being connected. For example, Andor is connected, but loosely. You know what I mean? It's giving you context to the other stuff. I don't want this new character. He's interacted with almost everyone now. Get him in to interact with Anakin, and he's met all the famous people. Like, he started off as some random guy in Mandalorian armor doing small bounties. Now he's mixing with Bo-Katan. He's now got some heritage like lineage. He's now got a superpowered force wielding partner. He's met Boba Fett, if not the most scariest bounty hunter in the galaxy. He's met Luke Skywalker. Like it's just too much. I don't want him to be. Yeah, I don't want him to be this multiversal person who's interacted with everyone. No, he's not. I prefer the linear story. And it's above Ahsoka because it does better episodes more enjoyably on its own. But man, you said that the cameos don't hinder it. When I saw Bo-Katan, I was like, okay. I mean, we also didn't know season 3 was going to feature her so much. But I'm like, why is she here? I was like, she's not. If anything, you would expect Sabine to maybe be lingering, looking, or being with Ahsoka in that episode. But like Bo-Katan, no offense, she wasn't that big of a character in the Clone Wars and stuff. Like season 7, she probably had more influence, obviously, on the Siege of Mandalore. But like, she's not someone I was like, yeah, I really want to see Bo-Katan live action. I wasn't thinking that. Like, the only one that I was really wanting to see was Boba Fett because we obviously knew that like he should have survived that of all the books after it and everything. But I just think all the stuff from season 2 of Mandalorian I enjoyed didn't really involve Din that much and didn't really, have that kind of this show should have been called like what would it be a good name? It would be like the in-between period. Like the period between 6 and 7 that just has a bunch of characters in it because calling it the Mandalorian is kind of almost it's useless because he's just there as being there. Like he doesn't really influence the story that much. I know you're saying he takes Grogu around, but in the end, everyone else helps him to get to the point. Boba Fett ends up joining him, saying, "I'll help your cause," all this kind of stuff. So I'm like, wow. I was like, no, I don't know. It's just, and once again, if it wasn't for the Jedi, Luke, or if it wasn't for the other bounty hunters, he wouldn't have made it that far. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it was too branching out into other projects that I just didn't want at that time. I want to focus storyline with characters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I think hearing both of you speak has made me feel more convinced of where I've placed it in between you two, because I agree with both people of what you've said. And Jack, I do agree with I think one of the main points of yours I agreed with is kind of the direct connectedness between the Mandalorian as a person, character, and other characters, and then expanding of the story from that. I agree that this is why I like season 1 and put it a bit higher, because he's more of just a guy, to quote Jango Fett, trying to make his way throughout the galaxy. But I put it in between because I think just episodically I really enjoyed and found each episode interesting in its own right. And the one that really comes to my mind is the one with Mayfeld, Bill Burr's character,
100%.
when they go into that Imperial base. That is one of my all-time favorite Mandalorian episodes.
I'm sensing a theme.
I don't even know I'm not sure if I'd put it as my favorite, but it's definitely close to, if not my favorite Mandalorian episode.
Oh, you're spoiling next week's podcast.
No.
Well, I think that like even the tension of, is he actually going to take his mask off? Because we've had a season and a half of he's never taking his mask off, and then it happens. Yes, Jack? You got something to say?
When
just pointing.
Am I getting confused? Didn't he take his mask off season 1?
Yeah, I think he did.
He didn't take it off as a choice.
It wasn't in public, and yeah.
They're talking about to other characters. I thought you meant like the way you said it, like a season and a half. Like we have seen his face, but
yeah, but I mean, like he's very strict about his faith of you 100%. Don't take the helmet off in front of other people.
Living,
and then he did it for for the sake of the mission, and that dialogue, I've watched just the scene so many times with Mayfeld and that Imperial officer.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my favorite scenes of all time. I think just the acting and the writing with more Imperial lore. See, I think that's what keeps me in these shows. So,
that's what I was like. I'm sensing a theme here. Everything that he's classed as being really good stuff has had great Imperial content with it.
Yeah, because I think in reality, we haven't had a whole lot of that, even with the original trilogy. It's a lot about the rebels and the Empire's just there, but it's something that's so important and entwining in all of Star Wars and we don't really know heaps about it. So it's just so good and amazing to actually learn about the inner workings of the main antagonist force.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think that's why I've chucked it in amazing. Yep.
Chucked it. Just chucked it. All right. Let's finish with the Book of Boba Fett. 3, 2, 1. Let's move it. Woo!
Oh, is that?
All right. So,
I thought that was going to be a joke.
No.
are you talking about me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that definitely is a joke. I thought I was trying to
say.
make Jack feel a bit.
I was just confused again. Like,
Yeah, no, it's. I
As
mean,
we've
we've all
gone
put
through
it pretty
this
much in the same
episode,
spot.
as we've gone through this episode, I've more and more become less enthused by my own rankings.
Your list looks so weird.
Yeah, Cooper's surprisingly very in line with mine, which is actually crazy because we divided more than Mark and I. So that's funny. That's so funny.
Mark, you
I
want to
feel like
start
I
off?
need to move Obi-Wan. I don't know. I'm just really not convinced by my own rankings. It's too hard.
Since I talked a whole video about the Boba Fett, I might as well go into it.
Go watch his video.
Yeah. So seeing this, you might wonder, after calling it disappointing Book of Boba Fett, why is it above Kenobi and Mando Season 3? That's a good question. I think because primarily the other two, I think, had greater potential and had greater kind of builds up with the characters, that they failed so much more than Boba Fett did. Because in the end, Boba Fett, he was only a character who kind of stood around and was just kind of like, it will be done kind of thing. Like, no, just you know what I mean? He didn't actually do much. So in the end, he didn't really have much groundwork to go off. However, I think it was enjoyable in the aspect of, 1, his new suit was sick. Temuera Morrison, I love him. 3, his theme is goated. I love his theme so much. 4, the premise. Now, this is where I'm a bit sad. Having Boba Fett, this is, okay, without knowing about the show, Boba Fett as a mafia boss of the bounty hunter guilds in Tatooine. Wow. What an idea of a show that is. Oh, this is going to be amazing. And then it's just not. It's just horrible. It's horrible. But I think the premise is a lot better than the other two. It had an idea, just executed it horrendously, so bad. I just think with Boba Fett, they had so much potential with him again. They just fell flat on their face. Like the chase scene, staying at Tatooine, the ever-looming fear of someone attacking but never actually seeing it happen until the end, introducing Cad Bane at the end for him to just die. Oh, like so many. Oh, the Bacta scenes. Oh, he's just bathing naked in it. Like what?
Oh.
Like what? Oh man, it's so.
And that would have been a good payday, just lying in the back to tank. Don't
literally,
do anything.
No offense to Temuera, he just didn't do much. Like they just wasted him. Fennec ended up doing more than him. Black Chrysanthemum was wasted. I think the definition of this show is wasted everything. Wasted storyline, wasted characters, wasted action, wasted acting, wasted everything. It was just a waste of my time.
Waste of money.
Yeah.
But I still prefer it over the other two because the other two made me actually visibly almost upset of how much they ruined good characters. And Boba Fett is a good character. He just hasn't had as much build up as Obi-Wan as being in the movies. Mandalorian after coming off 2 amazing seasons. And even Boba Fett himself, right? He was better in Mandalorian season 2. And also the best episodes in Boba Fett didn't involve him. So and the best aspects, like seeing Din go crazy with the Darksaber was unreal. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, and even seeing the better CGI deepfake of Luke training Grogu was unreal. You know what I mean? Like, but why would we see? You wouldn't expect to see that in Boba Fett. Like, I don't know. just weird stuff happening in the show. You cannot say that it is better than bulk average, even borderline in garbage. So yeah, that's my
Yep.
Yep.
Mark.
Yep, I'll go next. So borderline in garbage is exactly what I've got it as. I've got it in between average and hot garbage because I don't think I can call it hot garbage, but it's definitely close.
Yeah.
And I think what I had in my head is what I was going to say about this show is I don't remember what happened in the show. And that to me is a sign that I wasn't interested. I didn't find it enjoyable and it didn't keep me involved in the show. That's why I put it so low. Then as Jack was speaking, I remembered the jokes that Book of Boba Fett is actually just the Mandalorian season 2.5,
Yeah.
which is also why I don't remember what happened because half the episodes weren't about Boba Fett. What was about Boba Fett is not the badass bounty hunter that I think we all know and love. But contrary to that point, the best parts, in my opinion, of this show were the flashbacks with the Tusken Raiders, because that had actual, I don't know, had actual like character development and sort of thing between him, interactions with the Tusken Raiders, learning their ways. And that's just a lot more interesting, in my opinion, than what we ended up seeing when he wasn't in a flashback and he was on Tatooine.
Sadly, yes.
And as Jack said, he was a mafia boss kind of thing. But even that, I don't think suits Boba Fett as a character. I feel like he's suited. He's just a solo bounty hunter who's just absolute badass who goes around and does the job. Yes, Jack.
Thank you, Mark. I feel like I'm at school again. I would like to quickly add to that. I like what you're saying with Boba Fett being like a traveling like a hitman kind of type. However, give him actual, because then they'll be too similar to Mandalorian. To give him actual character,
That's true.
I think it'd be cool. I think it was cool to envision him as someone who now he's the one giving orders. He's been on the other end of being the one, doing everyone's bidding. But now he's like, you know what? I'm gonna take this into my own hands and force everyone else to do my dirty work for me, but also be that kind of fearful ruler. You know what I mean? Like, because Jabba was a ruler, but he didn't really scare me, or like, I don't know about you guys, but like, he never really, he just knew people kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, he never actually did anything himself. It'd been cool to see Boba Fett be a leader whilst also forcing other people to do stuff for him. And that's why I thought the premise would have been cooler to see the character development, but then it just, in the end, he was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay, I've got two things to reply to that, and I hope I don't do my normal thing of forgetting one of those two things as I'm talking. But your point about, I agree that it would have been cool to see him as a fearless leader, but I think that's the exact problem. He wasn't a fearless leader.
Well,
he was kind of just like felt like he'd gone soft, honestly, which I don't see Boba Fett doing. And the second aspect of that is that if he was to become some kind of boss figure, I feel like he would only do it if he knew there was the potential to not just earn more power, which was kind of explored, but to earn a lot of money through it, which I don't think was explored throughout the show. So I think that would have been a lot more interesting. But personally, unless it was that sort of money-making thing, I don't think that's why I think he would have stayed as a solo bounty hunter. And then, as you were saying as well, that would be too similar to the Mandalorian. I definitely agree with you. And for that reason, I would honestly say I don't even think we needed a Boba Fett of its own show. I think if it was like the movies and he just came in now and then, even in The Mandalorian, and was the Boba Fett that we know and expect of just an absolute badass once again.
Yeah.
I don't think he needed his own show. I think if he kind of, I don't know if you'd say cameo or not, but kind of like what he did in Mandalorian season 2 when he came in and out. Like if that kept happening, I think that personally would have been just a lot better use of the character of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I'm just saying the premise was, I thought, strong, just didn't, like you said, it didn't execute it, and that's why it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Go on.
I've been very fascinated listening to what you guys have been saying about Boba Fett. I'm not going to speak for very long, but I just want to make mention. I, for some reason, thought the other day, oh, let's just chuck on the Boba Fett finale. Why not? So I watched it. First point that I want to make is something that Mark just said. Cad Bane calls Boba Fett soft like 4 times.
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, you've gone soft in your old age, you know, going soft or something about getting soft is what gets you killed or something."
Yeah.
Fair points, and also accurate because I mean, since when has Boba Fett ever been this guy that cares about other people?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fennec Shand is by far the best part of this series. She's barely in it, but when she is, she's a great character, and I hope we get more of her because I think, yeah, she's a great character. I got a Funko Pop of Fennec Shand. That's how much I liked her in Boba Fett. I agree. The best episode was not the Mandalorian stuff. It was the stuff with the Tusken Raiders. I think it was episode 2. Was it the Tribes of Tatooine? I think that's what the episode was called. That was a great episode. Oh, I don't even know what else to say now. It's like what you guys were mentioning, not much happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Exactly. You can't remember what happened.
I know. I do agree with the fact that it felt like war's coming,
But then
it happened. It's like war's coming. Episode 3, 4, 5, 6.
nothing happened.
Getting
It
to
was a bit
see.
like actually Ahsoka, if you think about it.
I
We knew they
yeah,
were
I
going to
guess
get
so.
to the other galaxy, but it took like 3 or 4 episodes for it to
Yeah.
actually happen.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the way I can probably summarize this is that I agree it was wasted, but I still had an all right time. Like it wasn't amazing, but I enjoyed watching some of it. It's not like Ahsoka where I was like, oh my God, a new Book of Boba Fett episode's out tonight. I gotta watch it. Gotta get there at 11 o'clock so I can watch it. No,
Yeah.
it wasn't like that. I was like, oh, Boba Fett's on. Oh yeah, let's just go watch it now. So
With Loki.
we don't need to get into Loki. That's for pop culture. That's not it's not for now. All right. So here is our lists. I am honestly surprised that we agreed on a lot of things. They look very similar, actually.
Well, between Cooper and Jack. Well, I guess mine as well a
Yeah.
little
Well,
bit.
Mark, you've got the same order as me, just in different categories.
And positions.
Oh, sorry, except for season 1, season 2.
Oh
Mandalorian.
yeah, they're pretty much the same. Yeah.
But we're all pretty. It kind of shows that even with our divided opinions, we're all pretty kind of unanimous with a lot of our feelings about each property and how we wish they ended up being. Kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so one thing I'll just touch on quickly, and this is something I'm going to mention in our 2023 recap video at the end of the year. Next year, we've got 2 shows that are like The Mandalorian, bringing in completely new characters, time periods with, well, not time periods, but Skeleton Crew, brand new set of characters, and The Acolyte, brand new time period, focusing on the Jedi and the Sith. So that'll be interesting to see where they stack in this list. And then, obviously we haven't included Bad Batch or Clone Wars or Rebels or Tales of the Jedi, any of the animated stuff. I think in the future we should do a ranking all the Star Wars projects and have that be like a really special episode. But yeah, this is our live action series list. We've done our movie list, and yeah, I think it's been really good. And we hope you guys have enjoyed. It's been a good discussion today. A bit of a longer episode, but it's always good to have a discussion. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.